Hello, welcome to the Freedom from Anger podcast. This is the intro before the intro. Just thought I'd hop on here and just say, hey, we're back after a little hiatus the last couple months. Finally getting some new episodes released, working on getting some new recordings down. Thank you, everybody, for being patient with me. Took a little time for some little self-care and vacation and got sick. And so I'm back, maybe not 100%, but I'm probably about 90. But looking forward to this year and looking forward to meeting a lot of great people and getting some information out there to help people, lack of a better term. But thank you so much. And I'll get off here and hope you enjoy this episode. I've been sitting on this one for a little while. Mr. Robinson, great interview. So hope you enjoy, and we'll be speaking with you at the end of this episode, and I will talk to you later. Hello, welcome to the Freedom from Anger podcast. I'm joined today with Sean Robinson. He hails from Kingston, Canada. He's a construction worker, firefighter, and author. His book is titled Going Dry, My Path to Overcoming Habitual Drinking. It's available on Amazon. It's got a lot of good reviews. Highly recommend check that out. How you doing today, Sean?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I'm slowly getting woke up. I'm kind of slow moving today. So it's kind of interesting. Construction worker, firefighter, and then all of a sudden you wrote a book. That's interesting.
Yeah, that happened. It was definitely not something I had ever thought I would do. Writing a book, being vulnerable, sharing my thoughts and experience. It's been interesting, but I've been really appreciative of everything I've been able to share.
The title kind of speaks for itself. Apparently you decided during lockdowns that something had to change.
Yeah. So just a bit of background. Alcohol has always been around my life. I got into it when I was, in teens. It wasn't that I was into it when I was a very young child or anything, but my parents were young. They were only about 20 years old when they had me, and they had just a young social life, friends, parties, different things. And I knew how to mix a proper rye and Coke when I was like 9 years old. And there was always games with counting how many cans were left over after a function, so we'd return them back for deposits and just different things my two younger brothers and I were involved with. So as I grew up, I developed my own habits and routines with drinking and what that meant to me by what I was led to believe or believed was true. And just the pandemic, the first year almost made my own habits worse, and I was drinking more, mixing mixed drinks with other just to try things out and not being able to go anywhere and have any kind of social life outside of the home with the pandemic and shutdowns and stuff. It definitely made certain things worse. And at that time, I call it my rock bottom because I was 320 pounds, miserable with my habits, stuck in my own mind because I felt I had to be a certain way, and just overall cynical and angry and negative. It just, the culmination of everything I was kind of going through in that moment was just, it didn't translate very well. And I just couldn't have been very nice to be around. So that took us that decision leading to the book. It was like, I started to journal coming from construction and firefighting and very masculine environments that I'm sure you're familiar with. It's just not a place I was used to opening up and being vulnerable and being open about struggle. And I felt I had to toughen up and just suck it up and fix it myself. And the journal for me became a place I could vent, a place I could beat myself up, a place that I could outlet, that I didn't feel any judgments, that nobody was there. And it was never something I was going to share, that firefighting and construction space that I'm in. It's like, that's a diary, right? It's not a journal. It's not a place that will help you with your mental health. And it's a diary. You start to get the people bugging you and harassing you. And I'm okay with that to a point, but I wasn't going to talk about it. So the journey and the journal became what is this book that I've self-published, is just that account of the struggles that I went through with deciding to change, with where I found myself, and then with being able to put it in a format that would help my former self just come to terms with what, is acceptable, and how powerful we are to make that change.
So, how long was the process from you said you had to toughen up and do it on your own? How long did it take you? Was it just cold turkey, just stop one
It,
day, or was it gradual?
so I didn't go into it with much of a concept of how I was going to do it, because I wasn't talking to people about, the struggles and thoughts and how I might achieve it. It started as a dry January. It started as a New Year's resolution that I would commit to some kind of item that would help me lose some weight, help me feel better about myself, help me be nicer to be around. And so the dry January and the 30 days that I started with was that gradual change. Without even knowing it, it gave me something to look forward to say, I'm not going to drink for the month of January, which meant I wasn't going to overeat in the evenings and snack and have all these extra things. So it was a direct input that would change, hopefully, some other things that would allow me to have a bit of a healthier lifestyle. So once I got through January, then it was like, I'm not ready yet to go back. I don't want to, because was starting to feel better. I had lost a few pounds, and I had opened up to podcasts and reading and audiobooks and this whole world of self-help that started to give me some different tools and tactics that I could use to give me more self-confidence and give me more information that would translate to what that next gradual was going to be.
Did you ever seek out any professional help, like a counselor or a therapist, or
I didn't. It is something that I've looked into since, but because and my dad's a mechanic, he was on the fire department as well a long time ago, and there was just a belief that I had that wasn't for me, that support system wasn't something that I could go to because it was for somebody else, right? And that somebody else I didn't know what that meant to me. I just knew that for some reason I felt I couldn't go see somebody. And what became for me was a lot longer process, I think, because there was a lot I had to try and learn on my own. And it shouldn't have been this way, but this is a lot of why I try to be more vulnerable and open with it now, is because reaching out to my former self, which is my kind of mission, is the person I used to be, and avoiding maybe some of the difficulties I went through. If someone can relate to this, is just knowing that those resources are there for a reason, and we don't have to think that we're above them in any way. It's just opening up to the podcast world, the self-help world, the books, Tony Robbins and the Brene Browns and all of these people that I would have never appreciated before. Their content gave me a bit of that therapy, if you will, to get started and to open up to a point where I can accept more of that and the real vulnerability that I was feeling.
yeah, I totally agree, and especially when you're coming from highly masculine jobs. Unfortunately, there's still that stigma surrounding therapy or trying to better yourself, and you're going to get made fun of, or there's always some kind of excuse. But like I tell people all the time is, if you're seeking out help, the only person that's going to know that you're seeking out help is you. It's not like you're going to post on a billboard like, "Hey, I'm going to therapy." No,
Mhm.
that's your own. But it's just funny how, we as men, we tend to talk ourselves out of asking for help because we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to feel that we're weak.
Yeah, a lot of being inside our own minds about it is like, if somebody catches me, if somebody sees me, if the journal thing gets out, or if the self-help thing, the therapy thing, like the whatever it is, because, coming from these different masculine backgrounds, and even in general, it doesn't have to be that it's a masculine place. It's just we generally get stuck in our own minds in this spotlighting effect, and feeling like everybody's watching us and they're going to find out that I'm not this perfect figure in any way. And then like just the anxieties we feel because of that, like we need to normalize and remove that stigma that asking for help is giving that, major weakness, because it is very heavy, right? It's very heavy to carry all this stuff. And we're not born knowing how to deal with these things. So to talk to each other and to talk to people that have been through some experience and talk to people that have the background and education to say, maybe try this or try that, or write it down, talk about it, to normalize that in a way means we don't have to be a statistic that, the suicide rates and the addictions and all those spaces, we can change, we can be different and not feel like our neighbors or friends or coworkers are going to give us a hard time.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many different ways that you can do therapy. You can do it virtual on your phone, and there's a lot of them advertised all the time on different podcasts, which like BetterHelp. But I think it's slowly starting to become definitely more accessible than it has been in the past. It's getting a bit more affordable than it has been in the past, and hopefully, like you said, we as men, when it comes to statistics, we're offing ourselves in higher and higher numbers every year through
Mhm.
suicide, through alcohol, drugs, and that's definitely not a good statistic to be on top of.
No, especially with the kind of things that are available now, like you said, and to add to that, like if I like I wasn't a reader before, and I did well in school, and I got all my licenses with trades and fire and all those things, so I could do that, but it was like I just didn't read because I wanted to. Like I didn't read because I felt like I needed to read. So all of that content that was there, I wasn't going to find it, right? And I know this is a lot of there's a lot of people that just don't read, and that's okay. But now more than ever, with audiobooks, you have somebody read it to you. You don't even have to read it. You get the same content. And then podcasts, like if you have something you want to work on, if you want to work on your anger, like you go and listen to an anger podcast, and there's some techniques and some tactics. If you want to work on dieting, like anything, there's a topic and many of them that will podcast that will speak to that. And maybe someone that's going through it that doesn't want to open up about it thinks, you know what, journaling, that sounds awesome. I'm going to write my thoughts down. I'm going to compare it to how I feel this week, next week, last week, and just open up and try some of these things. We get these tactics without even having to open up if we are, say, entry level and just need that little bit of a push to try something different.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many different avenues. It could be podcasts, it could be audio books. There's just so much information out there. And I'm a huge proponent of education. I think a little bit of education goes a long way. I know for me, not a huge reader, but some of the self-help books that I've read has helped me leaps and bounds. And it's information I wish I would have known 20 years ago.
Oh yeah.
It's, yeah, I mean, it's just like, why wasn't I taught this? Why didn't anybody? And it's amazing where we'll put all of our energy and our time into, but we don't put any of it to bettering ourselves, to sit down reading a self-help book.
Yeah, that's right. And then that was the space I was coming from when I decided to put my journal into a format that I could share. I wasn't a reader at that time. I started to went through the journey. So by the end of that year, which is the book is based on the year of, deciding to change to reflecting on it. I'm still not drinking, but that's not the book doesn't get into that. But putting that out there for that year, I kept it short. So it's 120 pages. It's pretty specific to the 1 year. It's straight to the point from that vulnerable and rock bottom that I call to a point where I'm reflecting on the year and challenging the reader to some of the things I go through in the book that worked for me. And then it was like I didn't want to read the 400, 500 page book before. It could have been the best, and I've changed and I do that now. But like Atomic Habits was something that I read that I would have never read before. And it's been huge in how I've been able to restructure some things. And there's a lot of others as well, but keeping mine short and speaking to my former self and people that could relate was intentional, because a small book I would have entertained before if it meant I could learn a thing or two that would help me.
Yeah, and I do think some books do get a little bit long-winded, especially some of the self-help books out there. But one of my favorite books that I recommend that anybody read is called The Four Agreements. It's been around
Mm,
20 plus years, and it's four things that we were taught as children, but we never applied to our lives.
mm.
And I probably got more from that book than a lot of the other books that I read. It's short, sweet, to the point. 7 chapters. Highly, highly recommend.
Yeah, I have read that, or I've listened to the audio on that one, and it is a great one. I definitely can agree that it's a good one for people to get into.
Yeah, yeah. It's been around a long time, and there is these audio books out there. There's even books on YouTube that that'll read them to you. Yeah. So, as far as your book, so how did you come about decide, hey, I'm gonna self-publish this, I'm gonna put it out there? Were you did you have somebody is rooting for you in your corner, kind of try to motivate you? Or is it just something you came up with yourself?
It's something that, so the quick answer is I was on a guy's trip, and it was a trip where there was a bunch of people drinking, and I had decided I was still on this journey, and wasn't. And one friend was like, "Oh, your wife's not here. You can drink." I'm like, "No, no, this isn't for it's for my family, and that is a secondary. But like, this is my journey. This is my decision. So it doesn't matter that my wife's not here. I'm not going to just start doing shots because someone's not babysitting me." But at another time, that same trip, another buddy was like, how is it going? Like, this was a genuine question. How's it going? I said, "Oh, I could write a book." And like, I was using that expression like there'd been so much at that point. That was about October, so about 10 months into the year. And I was like, I could write a book. And then I was like I have, like, I've got this journal, and then I've been listening and reading and opening up to all of this content and this whole self-help and development space that I'm in. And it was like, how selfish would it be for me to sit on this and not allow myself to be vulnerable with it, if there's a chance somebody else could relate to a portion and take some benefit from it. So it was kind of that October point where I had a month or two left in my commitment. So the way that commitment worked was dry January became February. So 60 days, I'm learning about habits and routines and structure and the cycles, Dr. Carolyn Leaf and the cycles of the 21 days. And so then after that 60, I was about, what about 100 days? That's the number that I learned about for changing a lifestyle. And so at 100 days, I just didn't feel like I was ready to be done. So I like, what? I've got 100 days. I could do this for the year. How cool would that be? I've never been sober off of anything for an entire year. So I committed to that year. So about October, 10 months in this conversation where I decided, I had 2 months left. I had did on all this journaling up until this point and tried all these things and set these rules for myself and different ways to handle different scenarios. I couldn't find that when I was just getting started, because I never felt like it was from the addiction space. And that's the habitual and the routine portion of that's in the title. I had to do certain things in certain moments. I had to have drinks and an abundance of it when I was camping, when I was out with friends, when there was a wedding, a concert, or Friday night, or whatever it was. So having those things in that at that time led me to that point. So when I was looking for that content, when I started opening up to that space, I couldn't find something that spoke to my version of it. There was a lot from the addiction space. I'm not a religious person. I was never brought up with religion. So a lot of and to answer a question from earlier about, reaching out for help, I felt at that point in my journey that a lot of the help was from a religious background. So a lot of the things that I know a lot of people get a lot of benefit from, I just didn't feel like I could relate to the way that the messages were given at that moment. So not having this version to relate to when I started was a lot of why I felt towards the end of that year that I would work on putting out a piece that I could self-publish and share that might speak to, like I said, my like where I was coming from.
Yeah, and that's great because a lot of people will use the excuse, like, why they don't go to AA or NA is, "Oh, well, it's religious and this, that, and other." But there's so many different avenues that you can go down to seek out help. I know one that I like is the SMART recovery because it's mainly cognitive based stuff. It doesn't really get into the higher power stuff. So I'm a big proponent of that. But yeah, it's great that you saw that, hey, maybe if I put this out there, maybe it'll help somebody. If it helps one person, then that's great. That's like with me and my podcast. I don't have thousands of followers, but if the information gets out there and it helps one person, then hey, it's worth my time doing.
Definitely, and I think sure you find it's a form of therapy for you too, right? Like I found putting this out there, having even this conversation, all of these things is a form for me to reflect on the journey, to stay consistent with it, to share and to help someone else, but to also keep accountable with what it is that I've set for myself to like how I want to be and how I want to show up.
Yeah, for me, it's constantly learning. You're meeting new people from different. And I was on a podcast the other day, and he was in England, so it's like looking back, I never would have. I drug my feet about putting a podcast out for years, and then finally somebody has just said, "Just quit thinking about it. Just do it. Just put it out there. It's not near as complicated as you're trying to make it out to be." The only bad part about it is I'm not a big social media guy, and the editing and having to put stuff out there on this platform, that platform. It takes some time. This years that I've been doing this podcast, I think it's really helped me because I'm constantly learning new things from different people. So I'm really thankful for people like you coming on and sharing your story. I know you probably got stuff to do.
No, that I appreciate being here. We don't know how to like these things. Like when I started, it was the same thing. Like this book and this thought. Like, could I really put this out there? It was like all of the stuff I started to listen to, and a lot of the podcasts, and a lot of the people that were speaking, and I heard one gentleman. I can't remember who it was, but he said like a lot of people are speaking from the peak. A lot of the content comes from, the after part of that journey. And it's great because we need that. But I already had this journal of this full year almost of going through a lot of the things I went through and a lot of the things that I tried and a lot of the pressures and like my own brother telling me, "Oh, you can't have a beer. What if you don't have your coin yet?" Like there was so many moments that were through this journey and different supports and non-supports that was like, I don't want to sit on this. Like if I decided in 5 years that, oh man, I really should have put that out there. I really could have, helped this or that person or really created my own, compounding development, whatever it may be. It was in that moment where I was like, you know what, I just don't want to sit on it. And, the social media and like the exposure and all of those things I can relate because like one of my early podcasts, I was on there talking to a guy and I was like, I don't know, like, cause he said, "What's next for you?" And I said, "Well, I kind of think I want to do some video." And he's like, "Well, then do the video." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but what about, I just not, won't be very good at it." He's like, "Nobody is." He's like, "You just got to do it. You just got to put it out there and get started. And then better as you go." And it was a kind of a kickstart for me to think about a few other things and be like, you know what? I just got to do it.
Yeah, we tend to be our worst critic, and we talk ourselves out of a lot of things. I know me and a friend of mine worked together for years and years, and anytime we've talked about writing a book or whatever, we're like, with all of our years of experience and education, I said, I'm sure we put something out there that would help somebody. And like I said, we've been talking about it for years, and I might have to sit down with them one day and, all right, let's come up with something.
Because
But
even if you had like enough of a manuscript, right? Like a lot of these things, like it's just notes, it's just stories, it's whatever you want it to be. But then like you create that into something that like, cause I'd hired someone myself published, but I'd hired someone to help me with editing and help me with, cause I'd never been a part of that. So, you get it all down on paper and you get your thoughts down. It can become so much more, but you have to have that structure first, right? It has to be something on paper versus an idea.
Yeah, and just getting it out there and making it real, making it reality, get it out of your head. It might not be perfect, but you can always edit as needed.
Yeah.
All right. So, other than Amazon, do you have a website that you sell your book through, or?
Yep, my website, I try to link and then constantly trying to update it, but seanrobinson.ca is my website, and a lot of most of my content is all linked through there. All of my contacts, socials. I put out videos weekly, newsletters weekly. There's a newsletter on my website if you're interested, and I put out videos, messages, lots of free content all the time that I get a lot of good feedback from. Definitely something to check out.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, Sean. Be sure to check out Sean CA. Check out his book. It's available on Amazon, very reasonably priced. It's got a lot of good reviews. And I just want to thank you again for sharing your story.
Yes, thank you very much for having me, and keep up the great work. Keep going. You're doing awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for listening to that episode. Please check out Sean's book, Going Dry, My Path to Overcoming Habitual Drinking. It's available on Amazon and other places. Please check out his website, seanrobinson.ca, because he's coming to us from Canada. Please check out our YouTube and Instagram pages, Freedom from Anger LLC, and on X, Twitter, it's anger_LLC. If you know of any guests or have any ideas about who you would like to have featured on our little podcast, please let me know. The best way to do that is to email me. My email address, phone number, all that good stuff is available on our website, freedomanger.com. Or you can email me at james@freedomanger.com. However you want to do it. If you need any of our services, please reach out. We do free assessments, anger stress management assessments, consultations, and if you need to work on some things, we can schedule time to sit down and have a talk. We do it virtual, so you don't have to go in anywhere. We can work with anybody, anywhere, as long as you got an internet connection and a phone or a laptop. So I've been blessed to have worked with people in Canada, Ireland, all over America, Hawaii. So please reach out if you need any of our services, and hopefully we got the ball rolling with this episode, and we'll have some more coming out each week. And as always, stay safe.